This looked like it was going to end violently.
Get your hands up! Get your hands up! Get your hands up right now!
A cop named Jesse Kidder with his body cam, a potential life and death face-off.
Shoot me! Get your hands out of the pocket now! Hey man, shoot! I'm not gonna do it! Shoot me! Shoot me!
The ceilings on the lights in the ceiling also doing a good bit of rocking. This the scene inside of a newsroom in Taiwan. You can see televisions on the ceiling shaking there. There are also reports of one person sadly being killed in a house fire that was triggered by that quake.
This is what puts the fear of God into people who have a big tree near their house.
An earthquake measuring 6.4 on the Richter scale struck Taiwan at about 10 a.m. local time Monday morning. According to a preliminary report from the China Earthquake Network Center, the tremor hit a depth of 7 kilometers. The local agency said the epicenter was about 80 kilometers of Hualien County. The tremor was also felt in many parts of Taiwan, including Taipei City, but there has been no immediate reports of casualties. Almost at the same time, a magnitude 6.8 earthquake hit around the waters of Okinawa in Japan, with tsunami warnings issued around Miyako Island. According to the Japanese broadcaster NHK, the earthquake was felt in parts of the country's southernmost island.
Caught on camera now, a 6.6 earthquake hit the coast of Taiwan this morning. Check out the water in this fish tank swishing back and forth. The ceilings on the lights in the ceiling also doing a good bit of rocking. This the scene inside of a newsroom in Taiwan. You can see televisions on the ceiling shaking there. There are also reports of one person sadly being killed in a house fire that was triggered by that quake. There was also a tsunami warning for the coast of Japan, but we can tell you that has now been lifted. Wow.
An ISIS video released online shows the kind of brutality many migrants are desperate to escape when it comes to Libya. The footage purporting to show the beheadings of Ethiopian Christians in that country. We're only showing you a couple of images because the content is much too graphic. It's a 30-minute video. Appears to show two groups of men dressed in jumpsuits being killed at different locations in Libya, one group by beheading the other at the point of a gun. This, of course, coming just 2 months after ISIS released another video showing 21 Christians from Egypt being killed on a Libyan beach. Joining us now from New York, Michael Weiss, co-author of the book ISIS Inside the Army of Terror. Always great to get your perspective, Michael. Let's start with this very deliberate message in this video regarding Christians specifically. ISIS working hard in a way to make religion an issue. There is a quote from the video that says, "Our battle is a battle between faith and blasphemy." How do you read it?
Yeah, well, I mean, ISIS's propaganda is such that they bill this as a holy war. They are the true Muslims. They are the followers of the traditions of the Prophet Muhammad, ranged against a conspiracy of crusaders, Jews, and what they call the Rafida, which is a bigoted term to describe the Shia. It's absolutely the case. I mean, they want to kill Christians. They have a bloodlust for it. I think there's another political element to this, though, if I may. Using Libya as sort of the soil on which to sort of perpetrate this kind of butchery, I think they're sort of twisting the knife into the West and saying, you intervened in this country. When you get involved in the Middle East, when you do something to try and destabilize power or overthrow autocracies or dictatorships, the result is collapse, chaos. We then come in and fill the void. So they've done these two videos now, as you say, in the course of about 2 months' time, killing people that have nothing really to do with what's transpiring in Syria and Iraq. You had Egyptian cops, and now you've got Ethiopian Christians. So It's very terrifying because it shows also that ISIS is not being defeated and degraded and destroyed as the president would like to claim.
This looked like it was going to end violently.
Get your hands up! Get your hands up! Get your hands up right now!
A cop named Jesse Kidder with his body cam. A potential life and death face-off with a man who had just allegedly killed 2 people.
Stop! Stop right there! I don't want to shoot you, man! I don't want to shoot you! I'll shoot you, man!
This is the neighborhood where it all went down. Officer Kidder had heard radio traffic that a dangerous suspect was driving in the area. He waited at a nearby intersection, saw the car, and then started following him for about 11 minutes. And this is where it ended, a very quiet, affluent neighborhood in the Cincinnati suburbs. The new Richmond, Ohio police officer was warned the suspect was likely armed and apparently wanted to be killed by a cop, as you will hear.
Shoot me! Get your hands out of your pocket now! No, man! Shoot! I'm not gonna do it! Shoot me! Shoot me!
Officer Kidder's boss says the rookie police officer was smart and composed enough to notice something.
At one point in time, he reaches in his pocket, but the officer, having keen observations, realized that the hoodie pocket that he's reaching in is not sagging with something heavy, which could indicate a weapon.
Dude, you back up!
The cop is rushed by the suspect, and the officer loses his balance, a critical moment, but he still doesn't fire. Backup police officers arrive. The suspect, Michael Wilcox, decides to give up and stays alive, largely because of the valor and fast thinking of this man, Officer Jesse Kidder.
I was trying to open a dialogue with him, I don't want to shoot you, just get on the ground, but he wasn't having it. He just kept repeating, shoot me. At one point, he said, shoot me or I'll shoot you.
Shoot me! Shoot me!
Jesse Kidder has only been a cop for about 1 year. He's a Marine, served in Iraq, earned a Purple Heart, and only had a body cam because his family had bought it for him for his safety after the police shooting in Ferguson, Missouri.
He got towards my face right as I lost balance. I'm thinking at this point that if he goes in to attack me, that I will have to use deadly force to defend myself.
But it didn't come to that. The suspect now in custody. And the police chief now talking about getting funding to get body cameras for all his officers after this incident with his rookie officer.
I'm proud of him.
It's incredible that his family are the ones who bought the body cam for him. Did police find a weapon on this guy? Because he'd allegedly killed 2 people already.
Well, Officer Kidder's, Anderson's observations appeared to be accurate because they did not find a gun or another weapon on Wilcox. They also did not find a gun in his car, but police say they found one of his guns at the previous crime scene. He is alleged, police say, to have killed his girlfriend in Brown County, Ohio, which is nearby where we're standing right now, and then shortly afterwards killing a friend of his across the state line, across the Ohio River in Kenton County, Kentucky. So right now he is in jail on $2 million bond. It does not appear he has a lawyer. He's in a lot of trouble, but Anderson, he is alive.
We begin with a developing story, the bird flu outbreak tonight. What you need to know about the virus spreading across the state, infecting hundreds of thousands of chickens. It's so bad the governor issued an executive order activating specially trained National Guard troops.
The bird flu is running rampant throughout Jefferson, Juneau, and Barron counties. 12 News' Terry Sater is in Jefferson County tonight, where the virus hasn't spread to people, but it is killing chickens on farms.
A state trooper now guards the entrance to this farm in rural Jefferson County. There's great concern about bird flu spreading.
His name's Big Bluey, and I would miss him. If they took him away, I would have to cry.
All of Pam Altenberg's chickens are healthy. She lives a few farms away from the bird flu contaminated factory farm in Jefferson County that's now on bio-lockdown. And last week, government workers tested her birds.
They came in with their hazmat, their gowns and their rubber gloves, and they swab the birds' throats.
State agriculture officials say 200,000 birds will die on the infected Jefferson County farm. Half died quickly from bird flu. The others will be euthanized.
There is no proven human health risk with this particular strain of avian influenza.
I asked the spokeswoman for Wisconsin's Department of Agriculture if egg and chicken consumers should be concerned.
It's very unlikely that any of these chickens live long enough in order to make it to market. And the eggs, if the eggs are taken before we realize that there's any kind of disease on the farm, all of those eggs are surface sanitized once they are received.
This week's cool, wet weather isn't helping stop the spread of the bird flu virus. State health officials say the disease doesn't do well when the temperatures are over 65 degrees, and they're hoping for warmer, drier days ahead. In Jefferson County, Terry Sater, WISN 12 News.
So the big question, can a person contract bird flu from an infected chicken or egg? According to the Centers for Disease Control, the answer is no if the chicken or egg is safely handled and properly cooked. Also, most cases of bird flu in people have resulted from direct or close contact with the infected poultry or contaminated surfaces. Also today in Iowa, over 5 million hens had to be destroyed at an Iowa farm because of the bird flu. So far, industry experts say it's too early to predict any impact on egg prices.
Overnight rain left behind flooded roads and a messy commute this morning. Standing water shut down parts of some major roadways. You can see in that video right there. All of this also caused some commuter headaches, and our Brianne Carter has the latest on the conditions right now.
Along Route 50, a major mess this morning. 3 lanes of traffic blocked during rush hour, all because of standing water after the overnight and early morning rain.
State highway crews here on the scene say one thing that contributed to this morning's problem was this mesh sheeting that was laid over top of the grate. They say it was put here when they were doing cleaning here on the walls to make sure those chemicals didn't get in, but it also prevented the water from draining.
Crews opened the grate, then pushed the water towards the drain. With several lanes shut down, traffic backed up for miles. In Northeast D.C., more standing water. Along Eastern Avenue, water pooled at the base of the road. Tasha Adams didn't realize the depth of the water and got stuck.
Just tried to pull it through, and it wound up stopping. Came to a complete stop.
DDOT crews helped push her out of the water to wait for a tow truck.
But don't try it. You won't make it. Just turn around.
DDOT crews got the water cleared, and by mid-morning, the road was reopened. In Bowie, Brianne Carter, ABC 7 News.
We began with new arrests in a high-level terror investigation. 6 people arrested Sunday in Minneapolis and San Diego. It is part of an investigation into youth who traveled or tried to travel to Syria.
Officials say some of those taken into custody may have been planning to fight with ISIS and other terror groups. Jeff Pegues is in Washington with more information on the suspects. Jeff, good morning.
Good morning. These are the type of terrorism-related arrests that we're seeing more often in the U.S. This roundup of suspects came on Sunday after a joint terrorism task force investigation by the FBI. 6 people taken into custody. When asked whether this was part of a plot to carry out an attack, authorities responded by saying there is no immediate threat to public safety. Later this morning, the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office in Minnesota will hold a news conference. The FBI has been investigating alleged supporters of terrorist groups in the Minneapolis area, dozens of whom have traveled or attempted to travel overseas since 2007. Some are in their teens. In November, by the way, 19-year-old Hamza Ahmed, who's from Minneapolis, was stopped at New York's John F. Kennedy International Airport as he tried to travel to Syria. He has pleaded not guilty to charges of supporting ISIS and lying to the FBI. These cases often highlight what law enforcement in this country sees as the ongoing threat of homegrown terrorism and so-called lone wolf attacks. Jeff?
Jeff, thank you very much.
For these 27 survivors, this is the end of what might be the worst journey of their lives. They were brought ashore in Sicily's Catania late Monday evening. Hundreds are still missing, feared to have drowned in the deadliest known shipwreck of migrants trying to reach Europe. The overloaded ship capsized in the Mediterranean after a couple of days at sea. So far, only 24 bodies have been brought ashore.
Oggi è lutto cittadino a Catania.
Today is an official day of mourning for the city of Catania, as it is in Palermo and in other cities. It is a small gesture. We take our hats off as a sign of respect, to pay our respects to these desperate people, children, women, men who are looking for a better life.
This was the latest in a series of dangerous migrant voyages to Europe. Thousands of migrants are fleeing conflict in the Middle East and Africa, paying thousands of dollars for a trip that could cost them their lives. Up to 1,600 are feared to have died attempting journeys so far this year. The mass deaths are sending shockwaves through Europe, which is being criticized for its lack of an adequate response to the growing migrant crisis. Prosecutors said Tuesday they arrested the Tunisian captain and Syrian crew member of the boat on human trafficking charges. Yet many more migrants and refugees are still waiting to make the journey. Taoyuan, CCTV.
Rain we had today comes concerns about flooding.
Especially for those who live in those known flood zones. They're carefully watching tonight the Connecticut River, and even if they have insurance, it doesn't always cover their losses. News 8's Bob Wilson joins us live tonight along the Connecticut River, where he's watching as those waters rise. Bob?
Yeah, they're continuing to rise, and right now we're along the River Parkway here. This is one of the hiking trails where people can walk, and I want to just point out this is designed to flood, but this just shows you the stage of the flooding's out right now here. The hand railing's off in the distance. That's where the docks would be. The edge of the river is about another 20 feet or 30 feet out in this direction. But this is what everyone's keeping an eye on. If you live along the Connecticut River, we've been up and down it tonight. They're kind of checking to see, make sure it doesn't get out of control, because they know all too often these waters can just come right over the banks and into their basements. Amy Foster and her two children just moved to this house along the Connecticut River in Cromwell. It's their first spring watching the waters rise toward their front lawn.
Over the last couple days, it's come up a couple feet at least. Yeah, well, you can see the tree that the whole trunk is submerged. It wasn't a couple days ago.
The National Weather Service posted a flood warning for Middlesex County. Amy says with the rain, she's been keeping a close eye on her basement as well as the river. As your first spring, you're a little worried about flooding just because you don't know where it goes?
Yes, yeah. I mean, I see the river getting closer to the road every day, and yeah, I'm worried. Have a sump pump in the basement.
Well, for the people who live here along the Connecticut River, they know they live in a flood zone, and they actually monitor it by how much debris comes up onto the grass. However, they say being in a flood zone comes with some responsibilities. They know they have to have federally funded insurance. But what if you're not in a flood zone? Does your homeowner's insurance cover it? The mortgage companies require flood insurance if you live in a flood zone. Homeowner's insurance will not cover flooding from rising waters, and you need to purchase separate flood insurance to cover that. But insurance agents tell News 8 you have to be careful of the fine print. Flood insurance will only cover so much and does have limits.
With flood insurance, you can only get a maximum amount of coverage of $250,000. So if you have $1 million home on the ocean, you can only get $250,000 coverage.
And something else to keep in mind, it doesn't cover everything. Flooring, like hardwood floors or carpet in the basement, might not cover that, but it will cover things like hot water heaters, boilers, furnaces, that kind of thing. So you want to read the fine print, talk to an agent about it, and keep an eye on the river. A lot of people are. We have a lot of people parked up along the river. Everybody curious coming down to see just how far up it will come. Right now, we're live along the Connecticut River. Bob Wilson, News 8. Yeah, you know, there's a lot of water out there, as you've been telling us about all that rain and the fog. It's just been pretty much nasty out all day today. And as people are keeping one eye on the Connecticut River, it's coming up, as you said. There's also been a lot of people who live at the bottom of hills or in ditches and drainage areas where the water's coming down into their basement, and people are concerned about that flooding. Amy Foster and her two children just moved to this house along the Connecticut River in Cromwell. It's their first spring watching the waters rise toward their front lawn.
Over the last couple days, it's come up a couple feet at least. Yeah, well, you can see the tree that the whole trunk is submerged. It wasn't a couple days ago.
The National Weather Service posted a flood warning for Middlesex County. Amy says with the rain, she's been keeping a close eye on her basement as well as the river. As your first spring, you're a little worried about flooding just because you don't know where it goes?
Yes, yeah. I mean, I see the river getting closer to the road every day, and yeah, I'm worried. Have a sump pump in the basement.
Well, for the people who live here along the Connecticut River, they know they live in a flood zone, and they actually monitor it by how much debris comes up onto the grass. However, they say being in a flood zone comes with some responsibilities. They know they have to have federally funded insurance. But what if you're not in a flood zone? Does your homeowner's insurance cover it? The mortgage companies require flood insurance if you live in a flood zone. Homeowners insurance will not cover flooding from rising waters, and you need to purchase separate flood insurance to cover that. But insurance agents tell News 8 you have to be careful of the fine print. Flood insurance will only cover so much and does have limits.
With flood insurance, you can only get a maximum amount of coverage of $250,000. So if you have $1 million home on the ocean, you can only get $250,000 coverage.
Something to keep in mind. What will it cover? The flood insurance will cover things in your basement like the hot water heater or furnace or boiler, but not necessarily the wood flooring or the carpeting, so you really have to check with your agent if you have any questions about exactly how much insurance you need, what kind you need, and if you need that flood insurance, even if you're not in a flood zone. I'm Bob Wilson, reporting live in Hartford, News 8.
Newcastle and the Central Coast are expected to bear the worst of the storm this evening. Our reporter Kate Creedon is in Newcastle. Kate, it's a battering that just won't stop.
Pete, when you drive through the city, you get a real sense of just how hard Newcastle has been hit by this storm. More than 100,000 homes are tonight without power, and residents are being told it could be days before it's restored. This afternoon, the SES sent residents text messages warning them to expect high-velocity flash flooding. And as you can see from here on the beach, that high wind and heavy rain is showing no sign of easing after what's already been a shocking day. This is what puts the fear of God into people who have a big tree near their house. The giant spotted gum was wavering, then went crashing down. Fortunately, crashing into the garden, not the roof of this Newcastle house. All the result of a dangerous and damaging combination. Rain that hammered with explosive force, and a relentless wind that seemed to turn everything inside out. Boats were battered or blown out of the water, and cars turned head over heels. In Newcastle, whole suburbs were marooned behind flooded roads, and scores of homes damaged by falling trees. Safe arms, though, for this little girl trapped inside her home by a falling tree, but then rescued by an ambulance crew. Gosford was left wallowing in last night's deluge, commuter traffic to Sydney hampered by flooded roads and tree trunks. This fishing boat was hurled onto Terrigal Beach after its anchor chain broke. Much damage to the boat?
Oh yeah, all the keel's gone.
A livelihood wrecked for Joel Carter, who ran a fishing charter business. On the waterfront at Gosford, it's normally dead calm. But not today. The vicious wind and powerful choppy waves playing havoc with boats.
Oh, horrendous. We haven't, I believe Nora Head was tipped 135 this morning.
On the water and in the towns, the damage bill is mounting from one of the worst storms in decades.
We don't see this very often.
Thank heaven.
No worries, can't be helped, it's done.
Kate Creedon, 9 News.
Traditions are deeply ingrained here. And with this ceremony, those women are hoping to ward off a killer. The local chief is convinced those who died had offended the spirit world and says this ceremony will placate a local deity. Local medics are putting their faith in science. They suspect homemade gin is more likely the culprit.
There was a particular person that consumed alcohol with other 4 people, and 3 of them, the 3 of them that he named, we found out that their names are on the list of those who have died. And it is related with other survivors that we met, and then even with the families of those that were interrogated, those who are deceased. So they are actually leading us somewhere that this might be a kind of methanol poisoning.
Other tests for bacterial and viral infections have proven negative. So too a theory that pesticide could be to blame.
The use of herbicide or pesticide is not reported in any of those patients that we have their database. So the issue of pesticide is not there at all.
For now, there's no conclusive diagnosis of what is responsible for the mystery illness. What we do know is that those who have been affected develop sudden headache, blurred vision leading to loss of consciousness and ultimately death, all within a 24-hour period. Deji Badmus, CCTV, Lagos, Nigeria.